The desert claimed, the heart redeemed. Chapter 1. The Dust of Abandonment. The sun beat down on the high desert like a merciless eye. The wagon wheels, once sturdy and proud, lay crooked in the sand. Blood had dried dark on the rim. Around the wreckage, the earth was scattered with shredded cloth, torn supplies, and silence. Mary Whitaker stood barefoot in the dust, the hem of her calico dress ripped and stained. Her hands trembled, not from the chill of the night before, but from what had happened. What had been done? The settlers were gone. Gone, and they had left her. The ambush had come swift and brutal. Raiders, or perhaps just desperate men, had struck at twilight, tearing through the small caravan of families heading west toward the Colorado Territory. Her husband, Thomas, had been among the first to fall. He'd grabbed his rifle, shouted for her to run, and was shot down before he could even raise it. The settlers had fought, and some had fled. But when the chaos cleared and the attackers melted into the rocks, Mary found herself alone. Her dress was torn, her cheek bruised, and her faith shattered. They had left her. Some had seen her collapse. Others had known she was alive. Still, they had ridden off in fear, unwilling to wait, unwilling to carry another burden. For 2 days she wandered the desert rim, half mad with thirst, mouth cracked, skin scorched. Coyotes had circled her once in the distance, yellow eyes blinking in the twilight. On the third morning, as the heat rose like a shroud, Mary stumbled and collapsed beside a dying sagebrush. Her lips whispered a prayer she no longer believed in. And that was when he came. At first, she thought him a vision, a trick of the shimmering horizon. But then she heard hoofbeats, smelled the leather and dust, and blinked into the shadow of a tall man on horseback. He wore buckskin, dyed deep with desert hues, his long black hair falling down his back in a braid wrapped with sinew. His eyes, dark as river stones, looked down at her with no trace of malice, only something deeper. Something she didn't recognize. He dismounted in a smooth motion and crouched beside her. He didn't speak at first, didn't touch her, only studied her. Then, he reached into a pouch and brought forth a canteen. Cool water trickled past her cracked lips. She drank like a dying animal, gasping between gulps. "Enough," he said quietly, his voice a low rhythm, calm and strong. "Too much, you'll be sick." Mary blinked at him, confused. Are you going to kill me?" The man raised an eyebrow. "You are already dying. Why would I waste the effort?" A pause. Then, a smile touched the corner of his mouth. "But no, I do not kill those who need saving." She tried to sit up, but pain lanced through her ribs. The stranger caught her gently, cradling her like she weighed nothing. With care, he wrapped her in a woven blanket and lifted her onto his horse, settling her in front of him as he mounted behind. "Where are you taking me?" she murmured, half asleep already. "Home," he said simply. "To heal. You are mine now." They rode through the waning day, his strong arms holding her steady. The land around them seemed to blur, the cliffs, the scrub brush, the red rocks shaped by centuries of wind. Mary drifted in and out of sleep, the warmth of his chest behind her like a strange anchor to this new reality. That night, they reached a small canyon nestled between ridges. There was no town, only a few hidden dwellings built into the rocks. He carried her into one, lit a small fire, and laid her down on a woven mat layered with pelts. She woke briefly as he washed her hands and feet, murmuring soft words in his native tongue. She didn't understand them, but they were not unkind. "Why?" she asked weakly, her eyes fluttering. The man sat back and looked at her. "I saw you and knew. The land does not lie. You were meant to cross my path. That is reason enough." She faded into sleep with the sound of his voice echoing in her mind. The next days passed in a haze of firelight and healing. The man, he told her his name was To-Ya, meaning Silent River, fed her warm broth, ground herbs to cool her fever, and taught her the names of the birds that circled overhead. She learned the word for sun, for wind, for water. He never treated her like glass, but neither did he push her. He moved with the quiet dignity of someone who needed no explanation to exist. To-Ya rarely left her side, save to hunt or gather. When he returned, he always brought something small for her: berries, a smooth stone, a piece of beadwork. "I owe you," she said one morning, her voice stronger. You saved me. But you don't even know who I am. He sat cross-legged beside the fire and looked at her thoughtfully. You were left to die. But you did not die. That tells me more than your name. She lowered her gaze. Mary, she said. Mary Whitaker. He nodded. Mary, he repeated gently. You are not dead. You are mine now. My wife. She blinked at him. Wife. I saw it in the way you looked at me when I gave you water. In the way the hawk flew overhead. In the earth. My people do not ignore signs. Mary was silent, her heart caught between fear and something else, something raw and aching. I don't belong here, she whispered. I'm not one of you. To-ya leaned closer. The earth does not care where you came from. Only that you live true. You have been given back your life. Use it well. Beneath the painted sky. Mary awoke to the scent of juniper and smoke, mingling in the cool air of the canyon morning. Her body still ached in places, but the fever was gone. The bruises were fading. The weight of grief, however, still sat heavy on her chest. She stepped outside the stone shelter slowly, wrapped in a blanket of hand-woven wool. The dawn painted the sky in strokes of amber and rose, casting long shadows across the desert floor. She spotted To-ya standing near the edge of a cliff, his silhouette tall and motionless, watching the rising sun. She approached quietly. You always rise early, she asked. To-ya didn't turn. The sun is sacred. It reminds us of our place in the world. Small, but not forgotten. Mary stood beside him. The sky seemed endless from here, like the world had peeled itself open. She said nothing for a while. Then, her voice broke the silence. I dreamed of my husband last night. Thomas. To-ya nodded. He died protecting you. He did. And I couldn't save him. To-ya's gaze remained fixed on the horizon. You are alive. That is not nothing. She swallowed hard. You say I'm your wife. That I belong here now. But you don't know what I've done. What I've believed. I was raised to fear your people. He turned to her then, his face calm. What do your people call me? She hesitated. Savage. Do you believe it? She looked into his eyes, so clear, so still. Not anymore. To-ya stepped closer. Then let the wind carry the old words away. You are not what they made you, and I am not what they feared. The days grew longer, and Mary's strength returned. She began to help To-ya with daily tasks, grinding corn, fetching water from the nearby stream, mending simple things with her trembling hands. He showed her how to move through the desert quietly, how to read tracks in the dust, how to recognize danger in the call of a bird. One afternoon, he brought her to a higher ledge overlooking the canyon. This is the place of names, he said. Every child is brought here to receive a name from the earth. Mary stood quietly, feeling the wind tug at her hair. What name would the earth give me? She asked softly. To-ya crouched, his fingers brushing the sandstone. The one who walks from ashes, he said after a moment. Ashandi. Mary repeated it, testing the sound. Ashandi. He smiled. That is who you are now. Not all nights were quiet. Sometimes Mary cried herself to sleep, clutching the edge of the blanket, feeling the cold place in her heart where her old life used to be. To-ya never asked questions. He only sat by the fire, offering his presence like a shield against the memories. One night, as the moon rose pale and full, Mary stepped out and found him sitting with his back to a boulder, flint in hand, shaping an arrowhead. Do you miss anyone? She asked. To-ya looked up. My brother died many winters ago. A war party. I still see him in dreams. Sometimes I speak to him. Does he answer? He smiled faintly. Not in words. But I feel him. Mary sat beside him, folding her legs. Do your people believe in souls? To-ya nodded. Souls walk the wind. They do not end, only change. Like rivers. She turned her face toward the fire. I want to believe that. They sat in silence for a long while. Then, hesitantly, Mary said, Do you really believe I'm your wife? I do. But we haven't. You haven't touched me. Not like a husband would. He met her gaze. Not until you are ready. To take what is not given freely is a sin against the earth. Tears welled in her eyes. No one had ever spoken to her like that, not even Thomas. I'm scared, she whispered. Toya touched her hand gently. Then I will wait, Ashandi, until your heart tells you to come to me. Weeks passed. The canyon began to bloom as spring touched the desert. Mary laughed for the first time in months when a rabbit escaped her poorly laid trap. She learned to shape clay into bowls, to braid her hair like the women Toya spoke of. She danced barefoot in the rain one evening, while Toya watched from beneath a stone overhang, shaking his head and smiling. One night, the clouds were thin and the stars bright. Mary lay on a woven mat beside the fire while Toya told her stories, of the trickster coyote, the sacred mountain, the moon who once loved the sun and chose darkness to be near him forever. As he spoke, Mary reached out and took his hand. Toya! He fell silent. She looked into his eyes and saw no hesitation, only the stillness of a man who would never force, never demand. She leaned forward, and her lips found his. It was a soft kiss, but it opened something inside her, a warmth that spread like fire through dry leaves. Her hand came to rest on his cheek. His arms pulled her gently to him, but still he waited. Only when she whispered, "Yes," did he guide her close, their bodies drawn together by something deeper than words. That night, beneath the painted sky, the woman called Ashandi gave her heart to the man who had seen her not as a burden, but as a blessing. The next morning, Mary rose before the sun, walking the ridge with bare feet. She felt changed, not just in body, but in soul. She was no longer a ghost clinging to memories. She was someone new. Toya joined her quietly. "The spirits smiled last night," he said. She nodded. "So did I." They stood in silence as the first light spilled over the canyon rim. "What now?" she asked. Toya looked out over the land. "Now we build a new life. Here, where the wind does not care who you were, only who you become. A new fire burns." Summer in the canyon was fierce and unforgiving, but Mary had learned to move with it, not against it. She walked with a sureness in her step now, the desert no longer a place of exile, but a place of transformation. The sun that once scorched her skin now bronzed it with strength. The wind that once howled with loneliness now whispered her name, Ashandi. She was no longer Mary Whitaker of Missouri. That woman had died beneath a broken wagon in the dust. The woman who now stood in her place had shed her fear like an old skin. Toya watched her from a distance, pride quiet in his eyes. She was learning the ways of the land, the rhythm of its breath. And she had brought something into his life too, something he had never thought to feel again since the death of his brother. Joy. One morning, as they gathered mesquite pods near the stream, Mary turned to him, the sun glinting in her darkening curls. "I had another dream," she said. He glanced at her, waiting. "I was standing in front of a fire. A strong fire, taller than me. But I wasn't afraid. I was part of it. I felt it inside me. And when I turned around, there were women behind me. Dozens of them. And they were watching me, waiting for something." Toya nodded slowly. "Your spirit has awakened." Mary laughed softly. "Sounds dramatic." He touched her cheek. "It means you are ready." "For what?" "To choose your path." Later that week, Toya brought her to an elder who lived deeper in the canyon, an old woman with skin like weathered bark and eyes that saw through lies. Her name was Masani, and she had delivered babies, buried warriors, and called storms in her youth. Mary knelt before her, unsure. The old woman studied her for a long time, then said in a raspy voice, "You are the widow of the white men, the one they left to rot." Mary lowered her head. "Yes. You should have died. But the fire inside you said no." Mary's voice trembled. "I don't know what that fire is yet." "You don't need to," the woman replied. "Only that it burns." The old woman reached out and pressed a hand to Mary's chest. "You belong here now. Not because a man saved you, but because you chose to stay. You could have walked away. But you did not." Mary looked up into those deep eyes and whispered, "I want to learn. I want to be more than just a survivor." Sher Mosani nodded. Then rise, Ashandi. You will learn our ways, and one day you will teach others. Your fire will light many homes. The seasons changed. Autumn touched the canyon with golden air. Mary helped To-Ya gather supplies for winter, drying meat, storing corn, making clay pots. She wove baskets from yucca and told stories to the children of nearby families who sometimes came to trade. She became known as To-Ya's Ashandi, but more than that, she became her own name. Women came to her for advice. Children clung to her skirts. Even the men nodded in respect when she walked by. But change was never far behind. One late afternoon, riders appeared on the canyon's edge, settlers, armed and wary. Mary saw the dust cloud first, then the glint of rifles. She ran to warn To-Ya. He stood tall, face unreadable. "I know them," he said quietly. "They bring words. And bullets." Mary's hands clenched. "They'll think I was kidnapped. That you did something to me." To-Ya gave a bitter smile. "They do not come to ask questions, only to judge." Mary stepped forward. "Then let me speak to them. Let me show them." "No," he said, voice firm. "They will not listen. They see what they want to see." But Mary had made her decision. When the settlers arrived, they were led by a tall man with a red beard and a wide hat. His rifle was slung low but ready. His eyes locked on Mary the moment she stepped forward. "Mary Whitaker," he said, surprised. "By God, you're alive." She nodded. "I am. We thought you were taken. Or worse. We buried your husband ourselves. We had to keep moving." Her jaw tightened. "You left me." He hesitated. "We thought you were gone." "No. You were just afraid." The man's eyes shifted to To-Ya. "You with him now?" "I am his wife." Murmurs rippled through the group. Someone spat. "You can come with us," the red-bearded man said. "We'll take you back. Get you out of this." Mary looked at him long and hard. "You think I need saving," she said. "But I've already been saved. He didn't take me. He healed me. He gave me water when I was dying. A place when I had none. Love when I had nothing left to give." A pause. "You left me." He did not. The settlers grew quiet. One of them muttered, "She's gone native." Mary straightened. "No. I've come alive." The red-bearded man shook his head. "If you stay here, we won't come for you again. Next time, it may not be us. Might be soldiers. Or worse." "I understand," she said. "Tell them I chose this. Tell them I am not yours anymore." The man stared at her a long moment. Then, without another word, he turned and rode away. That night, the fire burned high in the canyon. To-Ya held her in silence, one arm around her shoulders as they watched the stars. "They will never understand," he said. "They don't need to," she whispered. "You may be hunted. Or hated." She nodded. "Let them come. I have roots here now. And fire." He looked down at her, brushing a finger along her cheek. "I love you, Ashandi." She smiled, resting her head against his chest. "And I love you, To-Ya. In this land of stone and silence, you were the voice that called me back." Epilogue. Years passed. Mary became a mother, a midwife, a teacher. Her children grew under the red cliffs, their blood a blend of two worlds. She passed her stories down in two tongues, the one she was born with and the one she chose. And when strangers asked, "How did you end up here?" she would answer, "I was abandoned by those who feared death. But I was found by a man who honored life. And in that place between endings and beginnings, I was reborn."